Welcome back to Simply Bitcoin. We break down the news from Twitter, the daily fail, meme review, software releases, hardware releases, the websites by plebes or plebs. Drop us a like, subscribe. Let's go to the numbers.
Number time.
Hey, if people get so excited about fucking beer and Miller time, they should get excited about number time.
Number time.
Number time. A nice cold one. Okay. Here we go. At the time of this recording, the block height is 697,286. The Bitcoin price, 49,605. Chain rewrite days, 924. Total public lightning capacity, 2,321.91. And the sats per dollar, 2,016. Blocks to the halvening, 142,714. Moving along.
Moving along. Good numbers. And again, was that a
we broke 50K though today.
Yeah, we did. We did a little.
We did break 50K today. Yeah, it's a little peak,
up,
you know? Yeah.
And then we went back down. But yeah, we looked around.
Was that? Okay.
No, but was that another lightning all-time high once again?
You know what? I think so. I think it was another lightning all-time high, but for me, I'm so focused on the 2500. I'm waiting to actually bring out our official sound for the lightning all-time high levels that we've chosen. And actually, hold on a second. No, you know what? I'll do it in the meme review.
Okay.
Somebody commented in the section today for today's meme review.
I'm excited. Okay.
Yeah, it was a good one. It was a good comment too.
Overall good numbers. Another day consolidating, and this is exactly why we don't focus on numbers and BS, because you just got to focus on the signal.
It's just boring, because what else is somebody supposed to say to you, right? Like, nobody's going to sit there and tell you not to buy something and tell you that it's going down to zero. So that's why, like, focusing on the numbers is so ridiculous, and this is why we'd rather just focus on the development and what's actually happening and even some of the fun. Anyways.
Yeah, man. I agree. You know? I agree. You got to focus on the signal, not the noise. Exactly what Phil says. And that's what we try to do at Simply Bitcoin. But anyways, Phil, it's time for
the daily fail. So I've stumbled into this garbage this morning. 6 reasons why Ethereum has intrinsic value. That's right. I'm going to dive into some of these reasons why it has intrinsic value. Right? All those keys that are held by the Ethereum Foundation and they dump on their bag holders to keep the lights on. Let's talk about intrinsic value though a little bit. Okay, so here we go. Smart contract capability. That brings intrinsic value, right? Of course. Ethereum was built as a platform to run programmatic smart contracts and applications via its own currency. Real-world use cases are already beginning to emerge and sustain value as the Ethereum blockchain can execute smart contracts that power decentralized application, dApps, which, by the way, have zero frickin' adoption and very, very poor liquidity and use case, because at the end of the day, none of those dApps need to be money to perform the function that they provide. Anyways. Oh, and like decentralized finance, DeFi, or NFTs.
And they're not really decentralized, dude. That's the kicker, is that they're not really decentralized. And like when Gary Terry came on and said like he was pissed off about the regulation, the fact that regulation could kill your DeFi project tells you everything you need to know. It's not really decentralized if a government could shut it down. Anyways, I'm sorry, Phil.
No, it's all good. It offers yield. It's a freaking it's an unregistered security and it's completely illegal. Anyways, whatever. Okay, so hold on, though. Let's just kind of focus on this real-world use case.
Bring it the
receipts.
receipts.
What we're talking about.
The receipts.
Here's the receipts. This is the real-world use cases, people. Okay? This is the rec leaderboard that we keep bringing up because it's relevant. Okay? And this is what they're touting as a reason for intrinsic value. Now, I can guarantee you that the people who got wrecked with those shitcoin bags definitely don't think that that's what creates value. Anyways, moving on. A new type of connectivity. I mean, this is just, again, utter nonsense and drivel. I'm not even going to waste my time on this one. The proof of stake model. Okay, proof of stake. We're gonna park right here for a second. Okay? So somehow they are going to try to, to mindfuck all of us, okay, into thinking that somehow proof of stake is a feature that creates intrinsic value. So let's keep in mind, this is the current model that we have right now in our financial system, where the people that have the most continue to accumulate the most and continue to get to enjoy the most.
And more importantly, they have more power over the system.
That's right. They have more voting power over the system. Thank you. So, I mean, come on. You know, this is utter nonsense. Anyways, moving on. Oh, here we go. This is one of my favorite things. Speed and scalability, which I honestly wish I could have found that video from Vitalik where he specifically says that he knows that Ethereum doesn't scale, but I couldn't find it. But it was pretty funny. Anyways, Ethereum is different from Bitcoin. Damn right it is. As measured by two key metrics, Ethereum block times currently stand at between 10 to 15 seconds compared to Bitcoin's 10 minutes. Guys, let's take a look at the confirmations. All right? Let's take a look at the receipts here. We all know Bitcoin's confirmations, right? Here we go. Equivalent conts. Like, we know for us, when we do a transaction, once you get to 3 confirmations, you know, you're pretty much good. But here, okay? We're going with the equivalent of 6 confirmations. Let's take a look at Ethereum, what it takes to provide the same level of security, or close. 623 confirmations is what it takes. And look at the time on that. 2 hours, and it's 3 times slower. So this BS idea, okay? This total BS idea that makes any sense at all, that block time, it's completely irrelevant. It is, no joke, it is a number that was picked out of thin air, and then just a whole narrative was created around it. It's complete nonsense. And a lot of the, you know, more seasoned Bitcoiners than me and, you know, people like Nick Szabo can explain that way better and more technically and make it sound like unicorns, you know. But anyways, this is interesting too. I was like, what the hell is this? Disinflationary supply. Disinflationary. Bitcoin has a finite supply of 21 million coins, which is why it is often regarded as a store of value and an investment against inflation. Contrary to Bitcoin, Ethereum offers an unlimited number of Ether, but does cap the amount released each year via the mining process, which it's totally going to change when it goes to proof of stake, and then they're going to be able to burn their coins. But what you need to remember is that there is no hard cap, and there is no way to verify the current supply, the existing supply. And so it leaves us with the exact same thing that we started with. It's garbage and it's nonsense. And you've got people writing these total drivel articles that really are just going to end up hurting people in the long run. Because what happens is that people equate Ethereum to Bitcoin, or they say, oh, it's like Bitcoin. It's not like Bitcoin. It's not like Bitcoin at all. Okay, there is no Bitcoin Foundation. There is no Vitalik that holds the frickin' keys. There's none of that stuff. Okay, it's complete nonsense. Anyways, I get so pissed off when I see articles like that, you know, and it's just so, you know, like I think what was it? I think Jim Cramer even came out, and I think this was actually. This is from thestreet.com. I didn't even realize that was the source. But yeah, this is the kind of crap, like, you see? So who's Jim Cramer friends with, right? He's friends with, you know, he's a circle jerker from the Goldman Sachs people. Absolutely. Right? And you know they want to push. We saw some of the crap information they were coming out with about Ethereum, right? Trying to get people to dive into shitcoins. So while they sit there and buy Bitcoin, they're going to go and sell garbage to their customers and screw them all.
Absolutely. I think you nailed it, Phil. That was quite a journey you took me on. But yeah, man, look. So look, I think you nailed it. I think you're absolutely right in the sense that, look, governments, Wall Street, VCs, this is what they're going to push. They're going to try to push Ethereum. Why? Because they can control it. How can they control it? Proof of stake. It's that simple, right? And of course, you know, Vitalik is already using the talking points. We use considerably less energy than Bitcoin. You know, we're much more efficient. Well, here's the thing. Bitcoin's energy usage is a feature, not a bug. The fact that it uses that much energy is what makes it uncorruptible. The more energy Bitcoin uses, the more energy would be required to essentially rewrite the chain or attack Bitcoin, or 51% attack it, right? So you actually want Bitcoin to use more energy. You want that hash rate going up, because that hash rate represents the immutability, which is what Phil just showed you, which is how many confirmations, right? The reason that Bitcoin, really, it's only 3, right? It says 6. I think 6 is overkill.
They
right?
overkilled it.
That's total overkill.
Yeah.
Like, in reality, I think 3 is like more than enough at this point, right? With the amount of hash rate that we have backing the Bitcoin network. So, like, if you compare that to, for example, Ethereum, right? It doesn't even compare. And worse off, let's talk about the pre-mine, right? I think Ethereum had a 70% pre-mine. And not only that, the majority of Ethereum nodes, right, because they're so resource intensive, actually run on AWS servers. Do you guys remember, the whole January 6th debacle, and when Parler was took offline, right, by the the Silicon Valley behemoths, right? And Parler, this application, just took online. It was took offline because it was running on the AWS servers. So what happens if, for whatever reason, Ethereum ends up in the bad graces of whoever is in political power, right? To those Ethereum nodes, right? So there's a reason that Bitcoin's block size stayed the way it did, right? Mm-hmm. And the reason that it stayed the way it did is so that it's not that resource intensive, and making it not that resource intensive means that it's cheaper to run a node, right? I think it's like $200 to build your own dedicated computer running the Bitcoin Core software 365 days a year, right? You could literally build one. You could have it in your room, right? You could cloak it up with CryptoCloaks.com, 3D printed, put a nice little, make it look cool and stuff. But if you don't want to make it look cool, you could just have a Raspberry Pi, make it, look ratchet. That's fine too, right? But the whole point is, the reason I'm saying all this is that Bitcoin's energy usage and its block size and its confirmation time, all of that is by design, because Bitcoin puts decentralization over everything, because the whole point of a cryptocurrency is decentralization. You want a monetary system that works, right, outside of the grasp of the state, outside of the grasp of governments. That's the whole point. That's why we call it freedom money, right? So all the tech narratives, right, that the Ethereum people love to say, it's like, oh, but it does this, oh, it does that, oh, it does that. At the end of the day, you can't have freedom money, okay, if you could just have all your nodes shut down because Jeff Bezos is having a bad day. It just doesn't work like that, So we tried to show you the truth, and hopefully, some of you, might get upset because you're holding Ethereum bags, but listen, you don't trust us. You could confirm everything that we're saying, So yeah, Phil, like it just makes me upset.
Yep, it's what it does, man.
It's what it does. But, what it does. But anyways, I love beating up on Ethereum. That's like one of my favorite fails. But anyways, Phil, it's time for
the Daily Meme Review, sponsored by
Citadel 21.
Okay, before we dive into the meme review, I just wanted to go over some comments that we got in the section here. There was Oren Ahola that said real men use command line even to make their breakfast. This is true. This is true. Even though I know I dumped on command line, but that's just for people that aren't into it. But you're right. I do appreciate that. And Roger Wilco, Bitcoin node beats the screw kit. Sorry, Phil. Indeed, it does. I do agree. I don't think I won that score yesterday either. So don't worry. Anyways, let's dive into the actual meme review for today.
Dude, those comment, man. Love you, plebs. Thank you for the comments. We really appreciate it. It's awesome. We wouldn't be anywhere or anything without you guys. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
So the meme for today, Phil, was brought to us by, before I pull it up, I want to surprise everyone. It was brought to us by @DickWhitman_BTC.
Good account.
Definitely fellow pleb. You guys should give him a follow. But anyways, let's check out the meme.
Yeah, that's a good solid account.
Altcoins waiting to see what Bitcoin will do as far as go.
Decoupling.
Excellent source material, and only critique is I would replace this with shitcoins. Right? Yeah. It's just much more effective. But anyways, for that amazing meme, I'm going to give this a PDQ chicken sub.
What?
PDQ chicken burger, I guess?
What's PDQ?
When you move to Florida, you'll find out.
Okay. Oh, now you just doxed me.
What
Now
are you
everyone's
talking
gonna know. Now everyone's gonna know that I'm gonna go live in Florida.
Well, people already know that you live in Massachusetts.
That's true. That's a good point. But maybe they forgot by now. And now you just told them new information.
Or maybe this whole thing's a psyop. Maybe we
right.
don't live in Florida.
Maybe we're not moving anywhere. I'm kidding. Yeah. Look, I gotta be honest. I'm totally running. I'm totally running low at this point. I've got almost nothing left to give to these memes, and with that in mind, I'm gonna give it this trusty screw kit, okay? That actually came with my Triton node. I didn't end up using them because I'm not really sure what they're for.
Man.
So yeah, I mean, I used. I mean, everything else is working. So I mean, I'm guessing that it was okay, but maybe with some extra pieces, who knows?
It's fascinating because not only does it have short screws, it has long screws.
It does.
But the only ones that are missing are the medium screws.
There's no instructions.
But it's fine because the medium screws could be a PDQ chicken burger sandwich.
So is that like KFC or what? Or is it like Chick-fil-A? Or
it's not on it. So it's better than KFC, but it's not as good as Chick-fil-A. It's like, you know.
so it's in between. So it's just like shooting pains, but no diarrhea.
Yes.
That's like okay.
Something like that. I don't know. Anyways. Anyways, Phil, it's time for
The Daily News, sponsored by
Crypto Cloaks.
All right, everybody. So we've been telling you about the battle to come, and we've been covering how the Treasury snuck in at last minute so that it would pass this tax provision into the infrastructure bill. And Jerry Brito is actually working at Coin Center, and Coin Center is essentially a lobbying arm for the Bitcoin and shitcoin industry in DC. So he's at the forefront. He is the vanguard, essentially fighting this battle. Check out this tweet thread that he was describing about what's to come, right, in, the battle for liberty. Of course, let's check out his tweet. The coming regulatory challenge for Bitcoin and shitcoins is essentially the same as the messaging encryption debate that's been rolling for years. What federal officials call the going dark problem and what the rest of us call the encryption backdoor problem, let me explain. It used to be the case that all communications went through a few central intermediaries like AT&T and USPS. The government could easily surveil all these choke points. Then we got the internet and a plethora of communication channels, many end-to-end encrypted. As a result, the government began to find it difficult or impossible to surveil all communications. DOJ, under both Republican and Democrat administrations, have asked Congress for law to compel providers to give them surveillance access. But how would that work? You get a bill like Lawful Access to Encryption Data Act, introduced by Senators Lindsey Graham, Tom Cotton, and Blackburn last Congress. It basically says that if you provide any encrypted messaging service, you have to be able to decrypt messages to comply with government requests, right? At the extreme, you could read this as a ban on writing code that allows for unsurveilled end-to-end encryption. Said another way, it compels communications providers to write code with a backdoor. The parallels to the Bitcoin and shitcoin space should be obvious. Regulators are finding that financial intermediaries that are used to regulating are increasingly disappearing because transactions can be completed peer-to-peer without the need for middlemen, thanks to smart contracts off there. As the infrastructure bill provisions suggest, policymakers will be tempted to say, if you write code that helps effectuate certain financial transactions, you will have to write it in such a way that you could surveil or control transactions. Oh, look at that. The state wants to control you again. You must include a backdoor. Said another way, this would be a ban on writing code that allows for disintermediated transactions. Any way you slice it, though, it's a violation of the First Amendment. He's absolutely right there.
Absolutely right.
This is essentially the case on Bitcoin and shitcoin networks where developers can really simply write and publish code and not provide a service in any meaningful way. Bottom line, Bitcoin and shitcoin networks are more clearly becoming a front in the so-called crypto wars. And when I mean crypto wars, I don't mean the currency, I mean cryptography, right? The government does not like cryptography because they want to see everything you do. Anyways,
Need it all.
I want to see it all.
The control freaks.
As we move into this new phase, we're lucky to have giants like EFF on whose shoulders of decades of work on speech and backdoors will be able to stand, right? And again, this is just a foreshadowing into the future of the fight to come. Again, we will win this fight. Again, why open networks always beat closed networks, and you can't ban an idea. And Bitcoin fundamentally is an idea, right? But you guys should not only follow Jerry Brito if you want to stay on top of this, but also, and I talked to some of the dudes or the plebs at Bitcoin Magazine, shout out Nick Can't Mind, and the Bitcoiners are also, trying to get more political oomph, and you guys should definitely follow David Zell. David Zell _ He was just hired by an arm of Bitcoin Magazine called _Bitcoin Inc. And that is essentially a lobbying arm for not the Bitcoin and shitcoin industry, for just the Bitcoin industry. And I don't know if I could say more than that, but definitely follow those two to stay on top of this. And of course, we'll be reporting it on Simply Bitcoin. And I just thought, Phil, that thread, provides a glimpse into the future of, essentially the legal battle to come with these people. At the end of the day, and this is why I want to focus, back to the fail, right? I think that the fail, you nailed it. This is why Bitcoin's energy usage is so important. Because even if they pass like laws in meat space, right, that says you have to put a backdoor into stuff, it doesn't matter if the Bitcoin hash rate is just, through the roof, because Bitcoin won't care. It won't care. It will keep on chugging along like it doesn't care about any of the laws that pass in meat space, right? So again, any of these laws will affect the on and off ramps. It will affect, how Bitcoin affects, transacts with the fiat currencies that governments do control. But none of these laws will affect Bitcoin at the end of the day. But like I've said many times before, we've had the luxury of Bitcoin being able to fly under the radar. But as it grows in market cap, right, it gets to a point where it's going to make our lives significantly easier, right, if Bitcoiners, right, and the Bitcoin industry gets more lobbying power in Washington to stop all these crazy ass totalitarians in their tracks. Phil?
Yeah, so it's a double-edged sword, right? You kind of you don't beat the system by standing in front and by standing in front of buildings and protesting and stuff like that. Like, that's not how that works, right? You go and you work in the system and you work your way up the system, and then you try not to lose yourself on that journey, so that when you get to a point where you can affect change, you can effectively help to dismantle the problematic parts. Okay, so essentially, I'm like, I do agree. I do agree that I think it's helpful to have, to have proper lobbyists for Bitcoin. I think it's a little bit different, right? Because we don't have an endless money printer that we can just throw at these people, to help us out. Unlike some other people. So I think that it's, again, I think that this is a situation where it requires hearts and minds. And this is something that Bitcoin has that the fiat system doesn't have. Nobody, it's, people don't realize how deeply money touches us, right? Like, come on, it's how we convey value. It's speech, right? It's valued speech in a way, or speech condensed into value that we can transfer. And look, it can't be stopped. And this is why we need Bitcoin. And this is why we need better money. Like, our speech has been stifled. Our speech has been cheapened. Like, think about it. Like, this is, because we use crappy money, we cannot convey value accurately. And as a result, we have these corroded systems. So anyways, I just don't, what they can try as they might. They're not going to be able to stop this. Okay, it doesn't really matter, and I think I do think it's cool that we do have a lobbying arm that is being built up, and it's people that are choosing to do this of their own free will, right?
Absolutely,
that's awesome.
Absolutely. Speaking about corroded systems, anyways, check out this announcement by, our evil friends. Well, not really friends. They're evil slave masters at
Frenemies.
at the IMF. Not even frenemies, bro. These are just evil.
These are just
Anyways, let's check out this this press release by the IMF. You know how we were talking about shitcoins, how they just print, like they just take stuff out of thin air? Well, that's exactly what they did. The IMF governors approve a historic US $650 billion SDR allocation of special drawing rights. The Board of Governors sounds exactly like the proof of stake. Replace proof of stake with Board of Governors, and you'll notice that they do the same function. Anyways, the proof of stake / Board of Governors of the IMF has approved a general allocation of special drawing rights equivalent of $650 billion on August 2nd, 2021 to boost global liquidity. This is a historic decision, the largest SDR allocation in the history of the IMF, and a shot in the arm for the global economy at a time of unprecedented crisis, right? About $275 billion of the new allocation will go to emerging markets and developing countries, including low-income countries. We had the Lord of Tongo on this show, and he spoke about, you heard it from the horse's mouth himself. He said that these people are evil people, and they get you, they entice you with this so-called free money, right?
It's just bribe, man.
And they
This is
get
bribe
you
and blackmail.
into loans, essentially, that is neocolonial. It's like modern day slavery, right? So you read this, and if you see it on the surface, you're like, oh, this is so nice or whatever. But at the end of the day, this is fake money. They're printing this out of nowhere, and it's not only me saying this, right? Saifuddin said it himself. He said the IMF just mined $650 billion of their SDR shitcoin out of thin air. That's exactly what it is. And handed it out to their members because the IMF is run by communists. I didn't say that, he did. Who think printing fake money can solve real problems. And he goes on to say, lady who got her degree in economics from a Karl Marx Institute, that says a lot, to be honest. Okay. Anyways, put the politics aside, wants you to know, that's insane, wants you to know that $600 billion worth of fake money she just pulled out of thin air are a precious resource, right? What does that sound like to you? That sounds like the Ethereum guys.
It's a fairy tale, man.
It literally sounds like the Ethereum guys.
Unicorns and fairy tales.
So, and I also read some news, I was seeing it online, is that they're only allocating this money, right, to countries that have an active vaccination program, right? And this was coincidentally a tweet that I said many days ago, actually on August 2021. I said, again, we're not anti-vax on this show. If you decide to take the vaccine, that's your decision. If you decide not to take the vaccine, that's your decision. We are for the free, because Bitcoin is freedom money. We are for the freedom of the individual to make his own choice whether or not he wants to take it. But I pointed out, Bitcoin doesn't care whether you took the jab. Central bank digital currencies will. And that's exactly what we saw from the IMF, right? Is that, they're essentially dangling this like a carrot, like a stick. Have you noticed, right, across the world that a lot of these countries have very similar policies on how they're dealing with the pandemic, right? Have you noticed that, right? Have you ever asked
learning
yourself
from each other, Nico?
Have you ever asked yourself why? Have you ever asked yourself
questions.
why? Right, so great reset. So it's like it makes you ask questions, right? It makes you question things, right? And as Bitcoiners, your mind, your eyes get to open, right? So this is just another way of pulling countries in to do what they want by handing them a bunch of fake fucking shitcoin and pretending like it has fucking value. That's essentially what it is, right? So it's fucking crazy, man. Anyways, Phil.
Yeah, wow. I don't even know what to say. But I really like your tweet about, Bitcoin not caring about the jab, but the CBDCs will. Listen, this absolute nonsense from the IMF, right, about, again, this is what we talk about. You see, like, how they use, right, like how words get used against us. So they create the idea that somehow the money that they printed out of thin air, which costed absolutely nothing, no resources, no energy, nothing, to produce is somehow this special resource, like you said, and that we need to, we need to take care of it. So if it's so important, if it's such an important resource, why the hell can you print it out of thin air? And if it's so important, why aren't you doing a better job of giving it out to everybody? No, but instead they're going to give it out to the countries that comply with the rules and regulations that they would like, even if those rules and regulations make no sense at all. Okay? It's absolutely insane, and this is only the beginning of this, okay? We were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. Just wait, Once they flip the switch for a CBDC and countries start getting on board with this, it's going to be a matter of time before they start shutting off, before they either start shutting off or just simply removing quote-unquote credits out of your account for random reasons. Oh, your blood pressure's too high or something like that. Oh, boom, you lose credits, If you don't, you didn't walk enough steps that day or something like that, boom, you lose credits. Like all kinds of stuff, because now you're weighing on the hospital system according to them, but somebody else can sit there who's got, who's got more voting power than you, and they don't have to do a damn thing, and they don't lose any credits because they're part of what controls the system. This is exactly the psychotic future that we're headed to if these people actually win at what it is that they're doing. And that is absolutely scary, which, don't get me wrong, they don't get to win. Believe me, they do not get to win. They haven't gotten to win throughout history. I know that some people would beg to differ, but at the same time, if they did get to win, then there wouldn't be all these pockets of resistance that are always around and always in check, right? And always keeping them in check. So
absolutely.
They don't get to win this one. And we also never had, it's like, I hate to say it, right? This time it's different. But this time it really is different, because in the previous times we did not have Bitcoin. We did not have, like, everything that we've always had has had a central choke point, a central point of failure. This is different. So
absolutely, it goes back to, and I want to bring it back to what you said about Ethereum, right? Like the one of the innovations of Bitcoin is proof of work, right? Is proof of work. The amount of energy, right, is by design, right? The amount of energy used, right, is what makes Bitcoin uncorruptible, immutable, right? Censorship resistant. That's the innovation, right? If you look at a proof of stake system, you're going backwards, right? You're literally just, it's literally an upgraded version, or even call it an upgrade, because it's not really an upgrade if people are just getting rug pulled billions of dollars, right? It's just another iteration of the system we have now, right? The politicians, or the people that are close to this money spigot, right? You can call them stakers, right? Have more influence over the network, have more influence over everybody else. No matter how much Bitcoin you have, you are equal to everybody else in the eyes of the Bitcoin network. You don't have more voting power, right? So it is very important to focus on. But anyways, I kind of want to pivot to the situation that we've been covering for months on this channel, the banning of Bitcoin mining in China. Check out this article by the Wall Street Journal that gave a glimpse into essentially how big this migration was. Bitcoin and shitcoin companies are leaving China in great mining migration. I love that name. Anyways, when China vowed to crack down on Bitcoin and shitcoin mining early this year, NASDAQ-listed BitDigital ramped up its efforts to get its more than 20,000 computers out of the country. That's a lot of miners. Anyways, BitDigital and other Bitcoin and shitcoin mining companies now face hurdles as they move their machines out of a country that previously used 2/3 of the global energy dedicated to harvesting Bitcoin. That's interesting vocabulary. The machines are prone to damage if shaken, which makes packing and shipping them internationally an arduous task, as a single new computer costs about $12,000. I think they're talking about S19s. Anyway, BitDigital said it still had 9,484 machines, or almost a third of its computers, in China's Sichuan province as of June 30th. The company has hired large international logistics company to help move the hardware and hopes they will all be in North America by the end of September, said Samir Tabir, BitDigital Chief Strategy Officer. Now, here's the signal, guys, and I always highlight the signal, right? There's a lot of noise, but here's the signal. The company is sending machines to locations in Nebraska, Georgia, Texas, and Alberta, Canada. What does that sound like to you? Decentralization. Decentralization. And that is a beautiful thing. And that's what makes Bitcoin anti-fragile. Anyways, moving on right here. Now, this is also what I want you guys to focus on, right? Because we also talk about, this ESG, how ESG is used to control people, right? I want you to focus on this. Beijing's latest crackdown, which has triggered what some are calling the Great Mining Migration, came as its government set ambitious goals to reduce coal use and recast China as a climate champion. Now, let's see, right? Let's see if, effectively, because what they want you to believe, right, is if we all go to renewable energies, it's just going to be a better world, and essentially coal's the problem and fossil fuels are the problem. Let's actually look at a real life example, right, that followed this climate nonsense, and let's see their results. Let's check out the receipts, right, like we always say on the show. Check out this tweet by Michael Schanenberger, right? Germany's renewables experiment is over. By 2025, it will have spent $580 billion to make electricity nearly 2 times more expensive and 10 times more carbon intensive than France's. The reason renewables can't power modern civilization is because they were never meant to. Ooh, right? It's crazy. It's almost as if, Bitcoiners have been saying this all along, right? It's almost as if the climate and so-called, have you noticed that it went from global warming to climate change? Have you ever asked yourself why they changed the words? Because they could not back up the global warming anymore, so they had to pivot to climate change. Think about how ambiguous climate change is. What does that even mean?
It's
climate
just vague
change.
shit.
It's vague shit on purpose. It's vague shit on purpose. And look, it's not only us saying this. Check out this tweet by Marty Bent, and I think he's absolutely right. Control demolition. How do you control your population even more? You make their electricity costs 60% more expensive, right? You said, you call them bad names if they're not using renewable energies, but the renewable energies aren't working. Right? And look, is another tweet. Supply margin. Merkel admits her government got it wrong, but still it proceeds with plans to close last nuclear plants in 2022. So she can't hide it anymore because she got it wrong, but she's doing it anyways. Have you ever asked yourself, these people aren't stupid. It's because they want to control you. And the way they control you, right, is through climate change. But before I end this segment and you guys are thinking, wow, this is really dark, right? Again, Bitcoin has judicial arbitrage, an opportunity, or China decides to ban Bitcoin mining. It's just going to open up an opportunity for another country. Check out this latest article from Bitcoin Magazine. Iran to lift Bitcoin mining in September. Why? Because the incentives of Bitcoin. The Ministry of Industries, Mining and Trade will soon lift the restrictions on Bitcoin mining imposed in May, reported the Financial Tribune. If Bitcoin didn't have the incentives, they wouldn't remove the restrictions. Remember that, right? They removed the restrictions because the incentives that Bitcoin provides, right? According to the Iran Power Generation Distribution Transmission Company, miners in the country will reboot their rigs starting on September 22nd. In that case, the Bitcoin mining ban effective in May by the government would be lifted for regulated companies utilizing the national power grid to mine Bitcoin. Now, again, there's a lot of signal here, right? This is why it's important that we have off the grid miners, right, that are using natural gas flared gas, right, where it's isolated energy pockets that don't rely on a national grid. That's why it's so important. But again, right, you read this and you would think, wow, the hash rate, it must be taking such a drop, because of all these bans. China controlled, more than 2/3, whatever. But guess what? Honey Badger doesn't give a fuck. And the Bitcoin hash rate, look at that recovery, right? This drop was because China, a nation state, attacked Bitcoin and banned all Bitcoin mining within its borders. But because of the incentives of Bitcoin, which is what makes the Honey Badger not care, guess what? The hash rate continues to go up. And I'll go on a leaf here, and I know we don't speculate on this show. Phil, I'm pretty sure that the hash rate will make an all-time high by year's end, even though China banned Bitcoin mining. right? Remember that China FUD for so long? China has all the hash rate, this is going to close, blah, blah, blah. Well, you guys were wrong, right? You guys are totally wrong. And the reason you guys are totally wrong is because Bitcoin has the best incentives out of any monetary system on the face of the earth, right? Fiat benefits the few, proof of stake benefits the few, and Bitcoin benefits all. Phil?
Beautiful, man. Very well said. Yeah, okay, about your hash rate thing at the end of the year. I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna go on a limb too and agree with you. I'm gonna say, you know what? Why not? Let's throw caution to it, and let's say that's where it's at. Let's say it hits all-time highs by December 31st, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or something like that. But look, I mean, it's exactly what you said, right? It's the incentives of Bitcoin. Why wouldn't you? And don't get me wrong. Okay, so this is going to be like just some random story that I'm making up, but wouldn't it be funny if China got tricked out of Bitcoin? Like, wouldn't that be like? Isn't that kind of weird, right? All of a sudden, it's like, oh, okay, we're going to be champions of the climate change accord and all that stuff, and they go and they force all these people to move all this stuff down. All of a sudden, Iran's like, okay, we're going to lift the ban, so you can move that over here, and then the rest of the miners, what are they doing? Yeah, we're going to move them over into Canada and the U.S. and into Argentina and Venezuela, and it's like, did we just lose? I don't know. Like, that kind of sounds like a self-inflicted redistribution of future wealth. I don't know. I feel like they may have been hoodwinked.
maybe they're so communist, right? They were like, we gotta redistribute the hash rate. Huh?
They're so communist, they screwed themselves. We want all the power. No, but you know what? It's interesting. Isn't there like a quote like that, right? Like that, it's like the more you squeeze, like, and then, things can slip through the cracks, right? It's like you squeeze so tight that you're actually making cracks. So in a way, who knows? Maybe that's what they're doing. I don't know.
Dude, it's funny, but and I've said this many times I've only said this a couple times, but this is $1 trillion mistake that they made, right? They're not going to feel this now, but down the road, they are going to regret so bad this decision, right? And again, it's an ideological decision, and it's a decision based on nefarious reasons, right? This whole climate narrative, this whole climate change BS, right? And look, we're not denying that, perhaps there's climate change. What we're saying is that the parties that be, right, or the powers that be, are using it as a form of controlling people rather than actually fighting the cause, right? Because
there is no cause.
What is the cause that they've been fighting? No cause. For? Because they've been using this as a justification to raise taxes. These people are not good people. They're trying to control you, and they're not using good it's like they're using everything in the book. They're using race, they're using gender, they're using environment. Now they're using a pandemic, right, to instill fear in people, right, to divide and conquer populations, and that is how they control you, right? Bitcoin is a way out of that madness. It opts you out of that control, right? And that's what we try to tell you every day on the show, right? We try to show you, listen, there's a better way, there's a hopeful way, there's a way, right, where you're actually feeling good about the future rather than, pinching pennies. And not only pinching pennies, you're pinching pennies on something that's constantly losing value as well, right? So that could be, that's the psychological effect of fiat that I feel like isn't talked about a lot, Phil, right?
Man, while we're all pointing fingers at each other, the enemy is getting stronger, right? Because by keeping everybody divided, they know, what I mean? Like, the systems in place understand exactly how this works, right? There's a certain percentage of people that will end up a certain way, another percentage, will end up a different way. They completely understand all of these dynamics, okay? And don't get me wrong, but it's being used against us,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, guys, there's a fight to come, right? It's our job to show you the clear and present danger, and we just got to fight that good fight. And again, open systems always beat closed systems, and Bitcoin has so much better incentives than any central bank digital currency will ever have to offer, right? But anyways, Phil, there was a software release today. Why don't you show everybody?
Software releases. All right, everyone. We've got Onion Share version 2.3.3 that was released. And that is actually, it's an open source tool that lets you securely and anonymously share files, host websites, and chat with your friends over the Tor network. Check it down below in the show notes.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. Yeah, I just wrote, it had something to do with onions and Bitcoin. Clearly, I was...
And then I was like, okay, I gotta go look this up. I'm like, I can't just say that.
Clearly,
All right,
I was
people,
wrong.
yeah, it's onions, Bitcoin, and fruit and shit.
Remember, when you see fruit, it's a shitcoin. Like we've
Is
covered.
onion a fruit or a vegetable?
Yeah, I think it's a vegetable. I might be a vegetable. It's
I
not
don't know. I
fruit.
always get confused. I think tomatoes are considered fruits.
Yeah, no, they're vegetable. Yeah, that is weird.
I don't know. Anyways, it's
all
the same
conspiracy.
thing like a spider is actually an animal and not an insect.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
I think so. Keep in mind, this is very old knowledge and I'm not Googling any of this, so I could be dead wrong.
We could be wrong. But anyways.
Let us know!
Let us know down in the comments if you know the answer to any of those questions. But guys, you know the drill. If you enjoyed the show, smash that like button. And of course, if you want to continue hearing the catastrophic fails from the communists, the shitcoiners, the ETH heads, all of the above, and the Bitcoin news from the blip blip perspective, definitely consider subscribing. And we'll see you tomorrow, guys, for another episode of Simply Bitcoin.
The IMF printing SDRs is nothing special.